Hello everyone, Mason here. How are you doing? I was tagged by my friend, your friend, everybody's friend, the beating heart, the centre of the Booktube universe, Lezley, from the Nerdy Narrative, to do the last 10 books tag. Seriously, is anybody not friends with Lezley? Because I'm not sure that that's humanly possible. She knows everyone. I'm actually excited to do this one. There's some really good questions, so thanks a lot for tagging me in this, Lezley. You're a good one. 1. What was the last book that you didn't finish? I kinda hate leaving books. It's a really hard decision to make. At what point do you decide, nah, I'm not gonna read any more of this? Do you get out early when it's not clicking with you? Do you stick with it for a while to see if it starts to click? What if you miss out if you stop? It's just one of the decisions that I really struggle to make. Recently I was reading Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney, which is about two families that get the wrong babies. Their children are mixed up by the hospital, they find this out, and they start trying to decide what the hell they're going to do about it. To be honest, I found it a little bit depressing, a little bit boring. I didn't connect with any of the characters, and it started to look like it was going to go in a direction that was going to make me really angry, so in the end I decided there are other books I could be reading right now. 2. What was the last book you reread? That would be Oblivion, which is the finale of the Power of Five series by Anthony Horowitz. You get everything that you want from it. It's got a great climax, some drama, some really memorable moments, this lovely snowy setting because a lot of the action takes place in Antarctica. It's a lot more epic feeling than the rest of the series. To be honest, I think it was just a brilliant way for Horowitz to bring the series to an end. I don't hear too many people talk about the Power of Five, and maybe it's because the series has been finished for quite a while now, but I do think that it deserves a bit more recognition. It's a great young adult sci-fi horror, and it's one of the first ones that wasn't given to me by my parents or anything. I just picked it up by myself, finished the whole thing, and loved it. 3. What was the last book you bought? Truth be told, the very last book that I bought was an Audible daily read, and I cannot remember the name of it at all. My partner isn't in right now, so I can't ask her either. I'm an absolute sucker for those daily reads, by the way. I buy them way too much. I read the description and I'm like, yeah, for $1.99, why not? I'm going to end up with like 1 million of them. Yeah, they're cheap, but if I keep buying them, a lot of cheap purchases is going to add up to a lot of money spent. The last non-daily read that I bought was Truth and Lies, which is book 1 in the D.I. Amy Winter series, which I'm about halfway through right now. 4. What was the last book that you said that you read, but you didn't? I have never done this, I would never do this, I will never do this. Doesn't mean that it's not tempting. As a Lord of the Rings fan, I feel like people assume that you're gonna love other fantasy, all other fantasy, especially A Song of Ice and Fire, which I have never read and probably will never read. Maybe it's controversial, maybe it makes me look lame, but it just doesn't seem like A Song of Ice and Fire would be for me. I'm not interested in political intrigue. You know that famous quote by George R.R. Martin where he says that Aragorn is a good man, but what's his tax policy? I don't care. I don't care. Sometimes when people are like, have you read A Song of Ice and Fire? I'm tempted to just be like, yeah, I didn't like it, and then they can just never ask me about it again. I'm sorry to all the fans of A Song of Ice and Fire. I know that I probably look lame right now. 5. What was the last book you wrote in the margins of? It's probably been about a decade since I handled a physical book, and I didn't write in the margins back then. I wasn't looking to analyse stuff as much as I am now. I've tried writing a few notes about books that I've read this year, but it never really works. I find it quite distracting to try and listen to the audiobook and my screen reader at the same time. In terms of making notes, if anything springs to mind, I tend to say it to my partner, especially if it's something that I think will come up later. There was something that Sanderson kept on mentioning in Mistborn, and I just had to say that I thought that it was going to come up later, because then I could feel smart when it does, and it did. 6. What was the last book you had signed? When Hell's Heroes, book number 10 of the Demon Artist series, was published, Darren Shan came to my hometown and did a signing. I stood in line with my friends, so excited. We filed up, we got to him, he signed the book, and he was such a cool guy. Then my friends took a picture of us together, but with it being Darren Shan, it wasn't a picture where he had his arm around me or we were doing a high five or a fist bump or something. No, he was throttling me. How cool is that? 7. What was the last book you lost? I mean, if you think about it, I technically lost all physical books when I lost the last of my eyesight. They're no longer in the realm of possibility for me anymore. They're out of reach. I mean, I find that funny. Some people will probably think it's sad. Don't worry though, if you laughed, you're not an evil person. I honestly can't think of a book that I've ever lost. 8. The last book that you had to replace. I have 2 versions of this answer, but technically they are the same answer because it's the same book. Obviously, I had to purchase The Lord of the Rings again in audiobook format, which is technically a replacement. Then there's the time where I lent The Two Towers to a so-called friend when I was a child, and when that book was returned, it was returned in half. It was split in half. So yeah, I had to replace that. In all fairness, I ended up with the 50th anniversary edition, which contained all 3 books in one, and I did love that book, but it still doesn't make up for the fact that it was split in half. 9. What was the last book you had an argument over? I guess we're sticking with Lord of the Rings because that's the last book that I had an argument over. It wasn't a full-on argument, but it was definitely a disagreement, and it was over one of the hot topics of Lord of the Rings. Did Frodo fail? I don't personally feel like he did. The Ring-Bearer is setting out on the quest of Mount Doom. On him alone are any charges laid, neither to cast away the ring, nor to deliver it to any servant of the enemy, nor indeed to let any handle it save members of the company and council, and only then in greatest need. Frodo is never explicitly tasked with destroying the ring. His only task is to do all that he can for as long as he can. He achieves more than anybody else could. Even Tolkien feels that his supposed failure is not a moral one. It's a simplification of what happened. This point is expanded upon by Robert from In Deep Geek in a video which explains it far more thoroughly than I ever could, and I'll link that in the description. 10. What was the last book you couldn't get hold of? This isn't something that I'd had an issue with until recently. I heard so many good things about The Dark That Dwells from Lezley, I wanted to check that out. It's not on Audible. Neither is Hannah Khan Carries On, which is another book that I wanted to read. The same goes for the Tom Douglas series. I said that I wanted to work my way through it in order, but I can't, because the first 2 books aren't on Audible. So annoying. Don't know why this happens. Now it's time to tag people, and I'm actually quite excited to do it. To start off with, I'd like to tag Rosie and Kate from Shelf Starters, a wonderful mother-daughter team from Australia who have some fantastic videos. If you want some in-depth analysis, they've got it. If you're not subscribed to their channel, go check them out. I'd also like to tag Lady Jane Books, who has another amazing channel, and I want to hear her answers for these questions. I'm desperate to know what the last book you got in an argument over was, Jane. Finally, I'd like to tag Kate, the Almost Book Doctor. Cannot recommend her channel enough, it's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to say on this tag. Once again, I really would like to say thanks to Lezley for tagging me in this. I had a lot of fun with it. If you've enjoyed yourself as much as I have, say hi in the comments section and we can have a chat. Then you should get in an argument with the like button over your favourite book. Subscribing will make sure that you never miss any of my future videos, and my Twitter is in the description. Thanks ever so much for spending time with me today, guys. Until next time, take care. For now, I'm off, and you should have a good one.